Hello friends. I had some questions about how to roll up tatami mats for cutting with the sword. This company, Romance of Men, sent me this katana about 2 months ago and asked me to do some cutting for them. But because of the prices of tatami mats, I haven't ordered them. So that company was nice enough to send me a couple of tatami mats at their expense and this sword. I'm going to show test cutting with this particular katana a little bit later in the month or next month as soon as I can and have time. But today I want to show how to roll tatami mats. There is more than one method to this. This is the method that I learned back in the 1990s. Now when you order tatami mats, they look like this if they are shipped in rolls, but you don't cut them the way that they are because they're not really wrapped tightly. They haven't been soaked in water and they're just wrapped with 2 of these ties. Sometimes they also come in this form, which is just big flat mats. So I'm going to show you how to tie these in one particular method, and remember, your teacher or style may have a different way of doing it. I've just found that this is a quick and easy way that has helped me with my cutting over the years. All you need are tatami mats from wherever you can order them from and some long rubber bands. So let's get closer with a better view. So here I have a bag of elastic bands that I ordered in different colors from the internet. You can use twine string to wrap these, but I find that these are very quick and easy to use. They save a lot of time. And here are our mats. Now I'm going to cut this wrapping off. Please excuse this obnoxious knife, but it works well for cutting. So here we are, and very simple method. Unroll it here. Now, you can start way down here and roll it up all the way, which is one way of doing it. I find that that is not the best way. So let me show you the first secret. The first secret is when you unroll the whole thing, there, take this half and move it up to about here. Okay, so that's the top half of the mat, and I'm rolling the bottom half up right to about there, so that there's, maybe about 6 inches there. What that does is when I roll the mat, it's going to push this part forward naturally, and then by the time I finish rolling it, this won't be sticking out, which looks bad and can affect your cuts. So this will keep this edge very clean for cutting. So I'm going to slide this up so you can see. Now I have my back end way down here. So the first thing I do is make sure it's flat. I press it here to make a crease. Now pinch as small as you can. It's about 1/2 inch. And I want to make another crease. Keep this tight and small. I roll it a second time. Still very small and flat. And as you can see, as I start to roll this ever so slow, you can see these bubbles happen. Well, that's going to push this bottom part forward as we talked about earlier. So I want to keep this part tight and flat and continue to slowly roll. It's not physics, it's not difficult, you just have to take your time. And of course, as I'm rolling, I pull the mat toward me so you don't hurt your back. For those of you who are in the black belt club, or what we call the bad back club, like myself, you don't want to strain your back too much leaning over. So you can see it's very tight. I continue to roll. Has a nice aroma to it. Smells like kind of like grass. Not that kind, the kind that you roll, guys out there. So as you can see, this is continuing to push forward, but it remains clean. Keeping these nice and tight. Now, when I get to the end, look how clean that is, see? So you just have this single roll here. Very clean. And because I folded it in half, as you can see, there's a nice hole here for the dowel to stick in. If you don't put your mat in half, this hole will fill in. Now you grab a rubber band and put it over the end. Depending on how thick you make these, one might not be enough. Now remember, when we soak this in water, the rubber band's going to expand. But in this case, these are a bit too long, so I'm going to double this up here to make it tighter. Okay, and then I slide it down to the middle, and I'm going to put, probably maybe 5 of these on this mat, doubling it up here. Okay, going to the other side, another one. Now, I'm not an expert on rubber bands. I don't know what sizes they come in. If you order tighter ones, you might only put 1 wrap. You want to keep it fairly loose for when you soak these. And you can kind of meditate or listen to good music while you're doing this. So here is one with 4, and I think that's about enough for this size. I might put a 5th on there, and I just spread them out. I don't worry about how neat this is because you're going to cut through it with your sword. There, so you can see when we soak this in water, it's going to get bigger, but it's going to allow that dowel to stick in there on top of your stand so you can push it down on your tatami mat cutting stand and cut through these at the proper angle. Now these things are really expensive, especially right now with COVID and all of the back order and things like that. Shipping is crazy. So you might think, well, that's very expensive. These mats are like $25 each, plus $25 shipping. I might only get 2, 3, 4 cuts out of this. How can I maximize my mat with my budget to make it more fun so that it's not over in 10 seconds? Well, you can actually do a secret. This is a good size average tatami mat. You can make them thicker, but can we consider cutting this in half and making 2 smaller mats? This is about the size of someone's upper arm, roughly. So you can double the amount of cutting you can do, especially if you're a beginner and you're not sure how you're going to do and you're going to mess up a lot. Why not make 2 mats? And I'll show you how to do that. It's very simple. If I want to make 2 smaller mats, I very simply divide them in half. So I unfold the mat all the way. I double it up here. So as you can see, I've divided it in half. And get a knife or a pair of scissors. In this case, I have my obscenely large kind of Rambo knife. And I just cut through. How simple is that? It's not hard. And I just cut through here. Easy as that. Now I have 2 mats. And of course, the remnants are going to come off. That's natural. Now you're going to have kind of a messy side like this, and you're going to have a clean side. So take the clean side and use the clean side at the far end. Take the messy end, just like before, fold it up, get rid of any extras if you want. Now, before we continue, some people say, Mr. Norcross, why can't you just roll a dowel inside of this, a piece of wood? You can do that, but when you soak it with water, what's going to happen to that wood dowel? It's going to also expand and you'll never be able to get it back in your stand. So I do not recommend putting a dowel in. Now, if you want to add some extra oomph, like a bone, you could certainly add a piece of bamboo or, I don't know, rolled up newspaper, whatever you want to make it even more difficult for the target to cut. But these have the same rough consistency of a human body when they're soaked in water. So again, here I am folding it, leaving some space there, flattening this out. Here goes our first very, very tight roll, folding it, doubling it up, keeping it super tight. Continuing to roll forward, putting pressure. As you can see, this is pushing up. Don't worry about stuff like that. You won't see it in a second. Super tight. And as this pushes forward, you have a nice clean line. Now check it out. Now you have a half size. Maybe it's the size of a forearm or a wrist. So on these, I'm going to triple tie them with my elastic band. Triple tie this, boom, boom, whoops. Might break one, that's why you get many. And the third, okay, here we go, see? So as you can see in this point, now I have one half of the other. See, look at that. So you have big arm, little arm. Now you've gone from one mat down to 2 each. And if I have 7 or 8 of these, I can increase them to 14, 16 mats, get twice as many cuts out of them. Gonna be much easier for beginners, but you soak these in water, they get really heavy. People ask, why can't you cut these dry? Well, because when you hit it with your sword, the sword's gonna bounce, the target's gonna fly, and these are too light. You have to soak them in water. What's the percentage of human beings that's water? I don't know, what is that, 97% or something? You wanna make sure these are heavy. How long do you soak these for? I would say, some people say as few as 4 to 8 hours. I put them in 8 hours, sometimes 12. I wouldn't go over 24 hours. If you put these in a bathtub, after several hours, they start to stink, especially older mats. So unless you want to get yelled at by your wife or girlfriend, don't soak these too long. Also, these create like a tea. So in your bathtub, it'll turn the water brown, and you're gonna have to scrub it with bleach because it will stay in the tub. I soak these for anywhere from 4 to about 8 to 12 hours, depends. If you put them in your bathtub or a big container, you can float them. They're gonna float, so you can stick them in and then rotate them every couple hours so that both sides soak. Or you can put a heavy object on the top to sink them in the bathtub. And that's all there is to it. And the next step is cutting. Okay, so we have our mats, we have our weapon, and we're ready to do some test cutting. Should I use pool noodles? Some people use those. I don't recommend those at all. I think they're terrible. They're bad for the environment. These will dissolve in the woods over time. They're environmentally friendly. Pool noodles are just terrible. They offer no resistance. They bounce around. In my opinion, they're a very poor substitute for these. Save up your money if you want and get these, or think of a creative way to make your own targets. Yes, it's an expensive hobby to do cutting, but it's really good for learning how to use the sword, getting proper angles when you cut, learning how to use your body behind the weapon. Be very, very careful. It's extremely dangerous, so you want to be careful with kids and pets, and make sure you find a qualified instructor who can show you how to properly cut so that you don't mess up and hit your leg or arm or something. So as I said before, the weather is warmed up. We can start to do some test cutting with these beautiful mats that were provided by Romance of Men. And I'm going to cut with this particular sword on their behalf in the next few weeks. Stay tuned for that video when we do the cutting, and we'll see how she cuts. I hope that this video has helped in how to roll tatami mats for Tameshigiri. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for watching. Take care.